Hi guys, here's another video for the Sackett Street YouTube channel. I'm sharing practical tips that I've learned over the years of ways to keep the writing practice more positive, less of a chore. Also the revision process. So these are just some tips I'm going to throw out pretty quickly. Hopefully they help. If you can learn these things, this is what I tell all my students. I mostly teach long form now. I teach mostly novel writing classes, but it applies to shorter pieces or to nonfiction. I think these kind of universal tips. But if you can learn these positive tips, I think you'll be able to set yourself apart from the majority of writers that I've encountered, which have this really unproductive mentality, which is that writing is so hard and the writing life is horrible. Now, I just want to qualify that. I understand where that comes from. It's not an easy profession. It's not, it's hard to predict when you'll get published. It's hard to know. So many things are completely out of our control, so I have total sympathy for writers who just feel really negative, but I also want to support people in creating art, and in order to do that, you have to come out of the negativity. So that's why these tips are important. So yes, if you can learn these, you can set yourself apart from and other people can learn from you how to stay positive without it just being this be positive, which people don't really. Seems sort of fake, right? Okay, so the first one is this myth that you're supposed to write every day. I don't write every day. Unless I'm working with an editor on a book, or I'm heavily into the revision process with my agent, or whatever, I might write every day then, because I'm so invested in it. I know people that write every day, and if you feel that urge and that excitement to write every day, good for you. Keep going. I don't want to discourage that. That's wonderful. The most people that I encounter, though, especially who are studying writing, they just don't feel like they want to write every day, and then they feel like they're a fraud. They feel like they're not a real writer if they don't have this urge to write every day. I think it's completely fine and even normal to pick one day out of the week that's your sacred writing time. I would suggest a 4-hour block of time. You could spend 1 hour getting into the mode, making sure where you're writing is private. I light a candle at the beginning of a writing session, and then I blow it out. It's a way to make it a ritual for me. And I might only spend 2.5 hours of that 4-hour chunk writing, or even less, but it's that time for me. People with families and busy schedules, that can be a lot to juggle. Getting those 4 hours where no one interrupts you, your phone is turned off. But if you can do it, if it's one of the ways to become a professional writer, you have to be able to do that, in my opinion. So I would do that. If you want to write more than once a week, which also makes sense, I would pick maybe 1 or 2 other weekdays to do. So let's say you do a Wednesday night from 7 to 10 or 7 to 9:30. Then you have your Saturday 4-hour chunk, or whatever day of the week it is. And that's your sacred time. I also really encourage writing retreats, investing money in yourself, which we can't do right now because of the quarantine, but once the quarantine is over and this is all past, taking time to go and stay somewhere and invest money in yourself for 2 days, 3 days, where it's just you in your bathrobe, writing crazy stuff, having a ball. Anyway, that's a separate thing. Another way to keep this process positive for yourself is every sentence that you get right after working on it, every scene that finally clicks into place, it's another piece of the puzzle that's this book that comes to life. So I really encourage taking that in. So there's 2 ways to look at it, right? The first way is, okay, I got this paragraph right, but oh my God, I got the rest of the book and that's wrong. And that's the negative way. That's how most writers are. The positive way is, oh my God, I just figured out how to make this scene perfect. I just figured out the essence of this scene. I just figured out how this chapter is supposed to end, and taking that in and celebrating it. And then you won't be in that writing is so hard camp where, you know, people just hate themselves all the time. So because so many of my students feel so stressed out about writing, and it is stressful, especially when writing a first novel. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing when I first started. I suggest a reward system. I suggest if you do your 4-hour chunk or your 3-hour chunk, you give yourself a reward that will actually be something you look forward to. Maybe it's, you know, having a nice bottle, you know, a couple glasses of wine that you really like later on. If you don't drink, it's watching a movie you've been dying to see and ordering off of, you know, whatever, Amazon Prime, and paying the money so you get a reward, taking yourself out to dinner, something that you get. It sounds silly, but it is a way to make this process positive and for you to actually enjoy writing. I do all this stuff and it works for me. Okay, so we already did this. Celebrating the wins. It's not egotistical to celebrate all the wins. I suggest a revision or writing journal. So it's a very specific way. If you get a journal, if you're revising, you make the revision items doable. So it makes it all less overwhelming. So let's say you know you have to revise the hell out of the whole book. You put in your journal, add 3 physical details to chapter 1. And it has a little box next to it. You get to check that off. So when you sit down for your writing period or your revision period, you get to check off things. So you get a sense of accomplishment. Or find an ending to chapter 2, you know. Or if it's a short story, you know, polish writing in second paragraph. These are things you can check off in your, revision journal. I had a professor, Darren Strauss, in my MFA. He changed the whole game for me by saying that he thinks for every writing session you only have to write 1 double-spaced page. I live by this. When my writing sessions, I only require that I need to write 1 double-spaced page. Doesn't sound like much, but it takes the pressure off. I usually write more than that, but there's been many times where if I just write my 1 double-spaced page for that one writing session, I have done my job and I'm happy with myself. So these are just some ways to take the pressure off and to keep it all positive. I hope it helped. Thank you.